Thank you, Madam President, honourable members, honourable Chief Negotiator, Michel Barnier, ladies and gentlemen. The European Council endorsed the agreement of the withdrawal of the UK from the EU and Euratom. The European Council then invited the Commission, the European Parliament and the Council to take the necessary steps to ensure that the agreement can enter into force on 30 March 2019. The European Council also approved the political declaration setting out the framework for the future relationship between the EU and the UK. On that occasion, the Union's determination to have as close as possible a partnership with the UK in the future was restated in line with that declaration. This outcome would not have been possible without the commitment and the determination of Michel Barnier and his team, to which the European Council paid tribute. Not less important was the sense of unity, shared purpose and responsibility amongst the EU's 27 member states as well as amongst the EU institutions. On this particular occasion, I should like to express my appreciation for the constant involvement and timely contribution of the Brexit Steering Group and more broadly the European Parliament. In the coming months, we will have to secure the conclusion of the withdrawal agreement. The Council is doing its utmost to adopt its decision on signature in the coming weeks, which should allow the EP to complete its consent procedure in good time before the end of March 2019. Thank you.
Thank you. We now move to the Chief Brexit Negotiator, Michel Barnier. You're very welcome, Mr. Barnier, and the floor is yours.
Merci beaucoup, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Madam President. Secretary of State, distinguished members, good morning, everybody. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak here on behalf of the European Commission. Apologies from President Juncker, who's at the G20 at the moment. This is a major juncture, Madam President, a serious moment, 17 months after the beginning of the negotiations, which has been my honour to organise under the authority and the confidence of President Juncker and the support of the entire European Commission. As you reminded us, Secretary of State, on Sunday the European Council adopted the draft withdrawal agreement and also a political agreement setting out the future framework for our relations. I'd like to thank the European Council and its President Donald Tusk and the whole team, but also successive Council Presidents who I've worked with agreeably with: Bulgaria, Estonia, Malta, Austria, and we'll continue under the Romanian presidency in forthcoming months. Distinguished members, the withdrawal agreement and time for declarations on it is over. It's now time for ratification by the UK Parliament, by your Parliament and by Council. Given the arduous conditions of the negotiations and the high degree of complexity of all of the issues surrounding the UK's withdrawal, the orderly withdrawal treaty that's on the table, agreement that's on the table, is the only possible deal. We've come this far successfully together, and thanks to unity, extreme unity among the 27 member states and all institutions. In particular, President, the withdrawal agreement and the political declaration owe a great deal to 4 declarations and extreme vigilance by Parliament from the outset with a view to preserving the rights of the citizens. That's been your priority and mine, and to preserve the interests of the Union and the integrity of the single market and the inseparability of the four freedoms and the freedom of decision for the European Parliament. These are two documents which we have jointly built throughout the process. And I'd like to thank President Tajani through you, President. And please allow me to say something on a personal note to Guy Verhofstadt, who's been your Parliament's coordinator for Brexit, and all the members of the Brexit steering group, Mougle, Mabrock, Galtieri, Simer, Philippe Lamberts, who have, with their teams, followed the negotiations very closely within the Brexit steering group, and thanks also to the group presidents, the committee chairman, and to Cecilia Wallström. I'm saying thanks while aware that we're not at the end of the process, which is going to go on being difficult. The agreement reached last Sunday was the outcome of a method which we settled together in conjunction with you. We set out an orderly procedure. We began, as was only logical to begin, by negotiating an orderly withdrawal before we discussed the framework for our upcoming relations with the United Kingdom. And we insisted on settling in advance certain issues that were and are still a priority for your Parliament: citizens' rights, peace and stability in Ireland, and the financial settlement. And above all, as of the outset, we have worked in a spirit of complete transparency. There's been an atmosphere of absolute confidence, and that's going to go on being the case. And this method has made it possible for us to explain what's at stake under every heading, to put across what was in the realm of the possible and what was not, having regard for the fundamental principles of the Union. From the beginning, we set out how we could and should respect our principles, your principles, and at the same time respect the red lines officially set down by the United Kingdom. At the end, we came up with an area of agreement, and we now have a framework to set out, or given the stability of the negotiations, nobody should be surprised by the contents of the agreement. May be relevant to remind you at this stage that the European Union had no wish to see Brexit take place. Nobody has shown to my satisfaction, the value added that's constituted by Brexit to date. But we have respected and continue to respect the sovereign decision made by the United Kingdom to tackle this process in an orderly fashion. But the two documents agreed last Sunday make it possible to limit the negative consequences of Brexit, including for the 27. The withdrawal agreement provides legal guarantees to persons, to companies, and to regions that are concerned about the United Kingdom's decision to leave the UK. And of course, the 4.5 million EU citizens who live in the UK and the citizens of the UK who live in Europe are also very concerned. And there are people here who are involved in all of the social and economic areas of North-South cooperation. The backstop that we agreed upon, so that there would be no hard border in Ireland while still protecting the single market, this backstop is a key part of the withdrawal agreement. In the absence of such a backstop, there is no withdrawal agreement. Then there's collectivities, universities, companies that have so many shared financial arrangements that are assisted by EU structures, and this goes for UK universities and very dynamic laboratories and so on. Then there are farmers who benefit from this common agricultural policy and who very legitimately wished to conserve their intellectual property rights, but much more than that, of course, through geographical indications. and all those people whose personal data has been exchanged with companies located in the UK. These are just some of the sectors and people for whom we had a duty to provide security where Brexit was sowing insecurity, and they are covered by the withdrawal agreement, which is a very dense text, I agree, but it's a very stringent legal text. As to the political declaration, that sets out the framework within which we will negotiate our future relationship as far as possible. And of course, distinguished members, that's an area, a phase within which the EU will go on defending its interests and the same principles. And in these upcoming negotiations, the EU and your negotiator will adopt the same stance as in the past. We've never shown, and we will never show, any aggressiveness, any desire for revenge, or any iota of a spirit of antagonism. We will continue to work together in cooperation with the UK to build the future in respect for this great country, which will in all events go on being our partner, our ally, our friend. Regarding the future relationship, is that the truth is that since the UK has decided to leave the EU and the single market, it can't be the status quo. It can't be business going on being business as usual. We have to say that, and the UK's companies have to prepare for that. But we do wish to prepare a solid area of cooperation in mobility, transports, digital areas, transports, energy, internal security, and of course the stability, for the sake of the stability of our continent, there's the foreign policy, and the UK is a country that will go on being active in the UN Security Council. And then there's defence and many other areas. And the more ambitious our partnership is, the more we'll be able to pay attention to and be careful about the level playing field between us. And if this political declaration is fleshed out and implemented in all of its details, as I say, if it is implemented in all of its aspects, then our partnership with the United Kingdom will be one that is unprecedented given the scope and the number of areas of cooperation. As President Juncker and you and your parliaments have wished, we have prepared and we're ready to begin these negotiations on our future relations once the UK has become a third country. Between now and then, of course, Madam President, there remains the period of ratification of our withdrawal agreement, which is also crucial. And the time has now come for everybody to shoulder their responsibilities. British members of Parliament will have an opportunity to take up a position on that withdrawal agreement and the text of the political declaration in forthcoming weeks. And this is a text where the future of their country is at stake. I will respect that debate and the period required for democratic debate in the UK. And we, on our side, need to use this period of ratification by the UK, which this Parliament will be involved at all stages, as has been the case, and will go on being so. Thank you all very much.